Hi, I'm Jeff Walter, and welcome back to the podcast. I have a great guest today, Josh Gelfat. Josh is with Brand Networks. He is a marketing leader who has worked across a variety of industries and capacities in big tech, in major media publishing, and consumer brands. He's currently the VP of marketing at Brand Networks, Geo Company, where he's helped transform that brand and launch their latest new product, which we're going to talk about because it sounds like a lot of fun because it's geared towards small businesses and franchises. It's called Amy. It's a conversational AI advertising tool. And it's also a great tool for helping educate consumers from the franchisee standpoint, out to the end consumer and also the franchisee. So we'll be talking about that. But anyway, moving back on to Josh, he's also worked at companies like Twitter, BuzzFeed, and on behalf of brands like Mandela's International, which owns my favorite cookie in the world, the Oreo cookie, and Chips Ahoy. That's pretty good too. And Today Ticks. Welcome to the show, Josh. Thanks for agreeing to come on.
Thank you for having me.
So I always like to start off to just, everybody, and people tend to end up in roles a lot of times accidentally, or, I always find it an interesting path. You had a pretty interesting background there. So how'd you end up VP of marketing at Brand Networks, and what is Brand Networks, and how'd you end up at VP of marketing and all this great experience? Why don't you just, I just find that path really interesting.
Sure. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would have been here, I wouldn't have said yes, because that's how careers go.
Right.
But I studied liberal arts in college, and I knew that I wanted to do something with brands, and I didn't really know what that meant. So I graduated college and was faced with, what am I going to do for my career now? So I basically applied to anything that had the word brand in it. And I'm someone who likes pop culture. Culture in general is really interesting to me. So I ended up getting my first job at an ad agency as part of Dentsu. It's a large media agency holding company. I worked on Oreo and the Mondelez brand cookie brands, which was really fun. It was a lot of learning on the job skills that I was not taught ever in college.
That's true, right? Right. You learn enough to get you into the industry, and then all of a sudden
Exactly.
then the learning really starts.
Exactly. I did not do a lot of spreadsheet work in college and was suddenly faced with learning how to do a pivot table. So that was baptism by fire in a really great way. I learned a ton and kind of got to see from the agency standpoint what it was like to work for a brand at an agency or at a brand, properly. Or I partnered with publishers, I partnered with tech companies. So I got to kind of see the broad spectrum of things across the advertising industry. What took me to BuzzFeed was I found myself really gravitating towards the branded content portion of my job. Part of my role at the agency was working on behalf of Oreo to create custom branded content. This was back in the day when branded content was a brand new thing. So I went to BuzzFeed to join their first business marketing team, which was focused on helping brands like Oreo integrate into content in what we called the native way back then. Now everything is branded content. But back then it was brand new. I was there for a bit and then ended up joining Twitter for a job that felt exactly like I could be one of the only people to fill this role. They were looking for someone who had agency experience and publisher experience, which is more than just me. I have to give other people credit too, but worked there on the business marketing team at Twitter, helping to basically connect big enterprise brands with premium publishers on Twitter. So think a brand who wants to sponsor the Super Bowl on Twitter, who might not have enough money to sponsor the Super Bowl itself, but they want to be surrounded by the Super Bowl content. Did that at Twitter. And then my time ended at Twitter when it became X. And in that post transition search, I ended up finding Brand Networks via a connection at Twitter. And funny enough, I had, in my agency days, met with Brand Networks as a vendor. So it kind of came full circle.
Interesting.
But I've been at Brand Networks now for about a year and a half. And since I've been here, we have grown a lot, changed a lot. And it's my first time since interning back in college that I'm really at a startup vibes company. We're not a startup. We were acquired a couple years ago by Agio, which is a workplace engagement company. They focus on employee experience, which goes hand in hand with one of our products. But the vibe is very much of a young company, even though the company's been around for about 15 years. We're growing and changing a lot. So that's how I ended up here.
So what does Brand Networks do?
Yeah. So Brand Networks, our history, like I mentioned, we started in around 2007. So I guess more than 15 years ago, almost 20, right when advertising on social platforms started. Brand Networks was one of the first, if not the first, cross-platform ad tech company that allowed brands to run ads via one partner, Brand Networks, across all platforms, and optimize accordingly. It was back in the day before each platform had their own ads manager. So Brand Networks was a partner to, I think it was almost half of the Fortune 100 companies were working with Brand Networks back then,
Okay.
to run their media across all social platforms. Since then, we've maintained a lot of that ad business on one side of the company. So we're still working as kind of a proxy agency for some big brands. But we've also splintered into two other areas, still having to do with advertising. The first is as a product of doing advertising for Walmart, we ended up building a partnership with them and helped build a product that has now scaled to many other brands called Bien Influencer. It is a product that basically helps companies like Walmart, companies like Starbucks create internal creator programs for their employees. So think you're on TikTok and you see a Starbucks barista, creating content on the clock while they're working.
Right.
Chances are they may be using our technology to create that and then send that content back to Starbucks. That's so that Starbucks could then use that content across their marketing channels.
Oh, okay.
Walmart uses it a little bit differently. They use our technology to help support their local stores. Each local store has a local Facebook account and local social accounts, and the folks at those stores use our technology to help drive individual store initiatives like a specific sale or if they need to move a specific product, but also help kind of the larger corporate messaging get dispersed to local communities. And then finally, I know you mentioned this at the start, our newest area of the business, which harkens back to our history, is called Amy, spelled AIMY, is a basically combination of our ad tech history and takes our experience and all of our data and learnings, that we've layered, and I should mention relationships with all the biggest players and platforms in the ad industry,
Hmm.
layers that on top of the rise and popularity and use of conversational AI. And it allows specifically small businesses, whether that be a franchise or a small mom and pop shop in a town somewhere in the world, to basically chat with Amy and create, plan, buy, and launch and monitor advertising campaigns across all channels. So across Meta, Google, YouTube,
Okay.
soon to be streaming TV. And we're basically, our mission there is to take kind of the learnings that we've done for these big Fortune 500 brands and be able to give access to these smaller companies or franchises of these Fortune 500 brands to really
Interesting.
help them grow and feel empowered to reach their customers.
So let me see if I understand.
Yeah,
If we start with the foundation of the company, it was a one-stop shop for getting your ads out across
correct.
multiple social media platforms, right?
Yep,
Then as those platforms develop more sophisticated management tools, the need to do that at the Fortune 500, it's still there, but it diminished a little, right?
exactly.
But then what I find really interesting about Amy is it seems to be following a pattern that I'm seeing in with other types of AI applications that, okay, maybe that need is not as great at the Fortune 500 anymore, but as you
Right.
work your way down market, um, where you don't have, 500 people in the marketing department,
Yep.
um, you know, it uncovers the need, and the AI allows the down market to access something that would have been too expensive previously.
For
Like
definitely.
in learning and development, we're seeing that in like simulations,
Right.
right? So there've been simulations forever, right? Or not forever, but you know, uh, but but they are so expensive to build that it was only for really, um, you know, high stakes environments like
Right.
flying airplanes, right?
Yep.
Right, like where it's like, no, we really want to get you in a simulator so you don't crash the real plane. But as I've been talking to guys that are putting AI into the simulations, and it's dropping the cost of creating a simulation by a factor of 10 or a
Yep.
factor of 100, all of a sudden opening up simulations down market
It's
to a
possible.
and being able to use that technology in places where it was heretofore unaffordable. And it sounds, am I getting it right with Amy? Something
Yeah.
similar like that?
So Yes, to an extent. So, we
I mean, you
actually
still have to pay for the advertising. Don't get me wrong.
definitely,
Yeah.
and I should also mention so for example, to your point, all of the platforms develop their own technology. We actually helped
Hmm.
develop Snapchat's buying platform. Brand Networks built that, and we sold that to them a number of years ago. So it functions now where if you have a marketing team or a marketing agency working on your behalf, you can have somebody managing all the platforms and all of those different, or managing your advertising in all of those different platforms. I think of it like you would have 10 different tabs open on your browser. One would be the Meta, one would be TikTok, one would be Google, one would be Snapchat, let's just say.
Hmm.
And while that technically doesn't cost businesses any money down market,
Right.
it's a lot of time and it's a lot of
Well, right.
expertise because all of those, so it's money in terms of overhead for needing people to manage all of those different channels. All of those
Right.
channels require different knowledge. They all have their own best practices. They all have their different information that is needed for those specific platforms. For example, the amount of copy you can put in the caption on Instagram as a best practice is different than on Google search. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would
Okay. I
require
see what you're
time
going.
and knowledge to basically adapt everything. But Amy helps centralize it so that via one conversation with Amy and a few clicks of the button to hit duplicate and adapt across platform, one person who really doesn't have any knowledge of how to advertise on these platforms can set up and execute a successful ad campaign.
Well, okay. So unlike, say, the simulation, where basically it increased productivity of the people creating the simulation by tenfold. So,
Yep.
boom, the price drops and it opens up to more people. But what I think what I'm getting from you is, well, they can always do it. The advertising costs whatever the advertising costs, $1 a click, $5 a click, whatever
Yep.
it is.
Exactly.
But but you're getting that 10x increase in productivity, which means a small marketing department or agency, or at a smaller buy level where the budget is smaller, you can, that increase in productivity allows you to take that buy and spread it across all these different platforms where it was just too much effort.
Definitely.
Because you've got finite resource, you just got so much time in a day that you're,
Yep.
and it
And
open, but that's really cool.
and
That's very cool.
I would also add one other thing to your point of like, let's say you've been running, for example, I have a good friend who I grew up with, went to summer camp with him. He and his wife own a CPG company. It's a nut butter company.
Hmm.
He's an engineer by trade, but he and his wife started this company. He's also the marketing guy. So he
Right,
basically
right.
set up his advertising campaigns and just lets them run and has never thought once about, I wonder if my cost per click could go down. But using Amy, because we've input all of our best practices as well as the platform best practices, people
Hmm.
may actually find that their cost per click does ultimately go down because they
Oh,
don't
interesting.
have the expertise to know that that could even be a possibility. But using Amy, you can determine based off of your objectives, what platforms are right and what tactics within those platforms are right to hopefully, our hope, make things cheaper and more accessible and ultimately better for these small businesses.
Interesting. Yeah. I'd like to double back to something you said about the Starbucks and the barista,
Sure.
because I thought that was really interesting from a content sharing.
Yep.
So, so take me through that example. So you have a barista at the local Starbucks, right?
Yep.
I'm up here in Petoskey, Michigan right now at beautiful Walloon Lake. And so, so that barista, is like, hey, watch me make a double fudge, double latte, pumpkin spice, it's
Yep.
that time of year.
Yep.
And and look, she made a pumpkin design on the foam, right? And so and she pops it out there on what, her social media, or on her the local Petoskey Starbucks social, like the local social media of the
So
local franchisee or
yeah,
location. Is that it?
it kind of depends. So
Okay.
the answer to your question is yes, it could be both.
Okay. Okay.
So how it basically works, and again, it really depends on the brand and the company that we're working with,
Hmm.
but it's essentially a way to connect with local communities through employees that they see every day. So for the Starbucks example, the barista in your town would, via the corporate Starbucks, opt into their Green Apron Creator Program, is what they call it. And they would be given access to our technology to basically create content that they then can submit back to Starbucks corporate brand team to get approved to use on social. And I think ultimately it will depend on what the objectives of the company are, whether that goes to the employee's handle or the Starbucks local handle or the
Okay.
Starbucks brand handle. But ultimately, companies use us for all three of those different kind of channels. So Walmart,
Yeah,
for example, is on a local store.
yeah.
Some
Gotcha.
of our
Gotcha.
clients use us for, the employees themselves. Like on my personal handle, I could create content about brand networks and post, but it really depends on
Right.
the objective, but it's a way to connect with people locally.
And what's that service called? Yeah,
It's
I mean, you
called
said it was
our technology is called BN Influencer, but most of our
being influent.
partners rename it because it ultimately is a white labeled product internally. They often will rename it to be something more along the lines of.
So is a way of thinking of it is it's a content workflow stream where it's like a person, your ecosystem, people within your
Yep.
ecosystem
So we
can
we call
opt
it.
into this program. Oh, you
Mhm.
got
I was say we call it employee generated content. So,
right.
there's user generated content where random people are creating picture or content about your business, but this is leveraging the people who work for your brand and care about the brand and are the
Right.
best advocates for your company already, and they're doing that every single day. So letting them participate in the marketing of your company is a really authentic and simple way to kind of get the word out about objectives or
Right.
opportunities with whatever your company is and whatever the priorities are.
So now if I submit uh a short video clip, let's say,
Yep.
then there's some type of approval work stream that it goes through, a review work stream, and then it gets,
Yep.
and then depending on the program, it's either I can then go post it on mine or my local company, or it's being used by corporate. Is that,
Exactly. Yep. And as
huh?
part of that workflow, again, because we're able to customize this depending on who we're working with. So,
Hmm.
a bank is going to have kind of different restrictions, or an insurance company is going to have different restrictions than Starbucks may have, as far
Yeah,
as the
yeah,
things
yeah.
that
Well,
they
that,
say. So we're able to build in different levels of approvals into our product, something that it carries across no matter who the client is we have um,
hmm,
brand safety technology built in. It's called
right.
BN Guard, but basically we've built an AI tool that scrapes all of the content from the picture to the video to the music playing in the background of the video to
Right.
if there's a brand or something happening or alcohol in the back, it will flag anything that is against brand guidelines or possibly inappropriate before
Hmm.
it's launched. So it will not be published, period, if it is flagged. If the employee is publishing it to their own handle, they'll be asked to retake the content without such and such thing included. But we also have a lot of partners who review it themselves before sending it back to the client or before they send it back to the employee.
And then in terms of getting it out into the ether,
Yep.
um, out into social networks, that's up to the staff, the employee that submitted it, that type of thing.
It's
Well, it
basically,
depends on, yeah, it depends back on, right.
yeah,
Well, I'm sorry. Once it's approved, it goes to whoever is in control of the distribution channels,
yep,
whether that's corporates, the partner, or the
exactly.
individual.
Yep.
And then it's up to them to then distribute it however
Yeah.
they're
And
distributing it.
to tie it into a franchise model, someone who owns, you know, 20 franchises in a particular market can say,
Hmm.
you 10 franchises, here's content that I want you to share on, for example, like the individual insurance broker's
Right.
handle or on the local location's handle. It's essentially, we would call that like a reshare. So like any content from the higher level, whether that be corporate or from the franchisor level, can be reshared, or content can be created from the bottom up where the employees, the people at the individual locations can be creating content that is then
Hmm.
sent up levels for approval before it's being sent out.
Yeah. The reason I'm drilling into this is, this was if I go back a while, at some of the automotives, Chrysler was a client, and some of the other big automotives. Yeah, we were talking about user generated content that,
Yeah.
and but it's in a highly regulated environment,
Right.
like you're saying, banking and the automotives. Like they don't want to bless something. Like somebody says, "Hey, the way you fix this is duct tape and baling wire," right?
Right.
Like, and they don't want to bless that, right? Because
Hmm.
it's outside of brand guidelines, like what you
Right.
said, right? Or we don't want like the pinup sitting be off the guy's right shoulder,
Exactly.
and things like that. And so, and it was always one of these things like you always wanted to do that. And on the training side, I'm talking about training
Yep.
now, there's a huge opportunity and a huge value in, in that user generated content, that employee or the
For
learner
sure.
generated content.
For
And
sure.
I was talking to, this company, Batteries Plus, and it's interesting. They have this learn, do, teach methodology in their training program. It's like first, you learn that you get the knowledge and you got to do the knowledge, but then you want to become like a mentor, a
Right.
teacher. And teaching would be things like creating content, showing, and then getting it out there either within their university
Yep.
or even, and especially when we're talking about like, say, customers, like out on YouTube or on any of the social media platforms, but to have it blessed as content that is blessed by corporate, and so for that, and so that's always been a challenge
Yep.
on the training side of how do
Right.
you get this, like if you take, so I'll use my Chrysler example, you know, 250,000 dealer employees across the globe,
Yep.
right? How do you get that into here, go through an automated workflow, have some type of automated compliance verification, the things that you were talking about earlier, brand that it meets the brand standards. Like it was just one of those things. It's like, we wish we could do that, but no.
Yeah. That's a perfect example of how our product could be used, because our product can be
Yeah.
brought in at the Chrysler brand level, where
Yeah.
each territory has an instance in the app where all of those employees are creating content, and all of that content is not being published unless it meets all the brand guidelines, because we've built the technology to ensure that that's happening. And I think, to bring it back to the training topic you mentioned too, like a lot of our clients and a lot of, people who don't use our product use employee generated content to feature products to educate people on how to use, or
Right.
how to use their new feature or things like that. So, I think about, a car dealership who may have a brand new model or may have, a sale going on. It's a great way for them to reach their local circles of people via their handles, via the local dealership handle, and do it in a way that doesn't feel like you're getting an ad shoved in your face, and doing it in a
Yeah.
way that
Yeah.
that's more educational and more focused on, that training aspect as well.
Yeah. Which is the interesting thing about marketing. And I think where it has gone in the last couple of decades, it's much, much less of the buy,
Yep,
and much more of the let me educate you,
for sure.
the kind of the and especially in certain sectors. And but I'm thinking about that whole workflow of the user generated content in a learning and development situation where you do have these large networks with tens of thousands of folks, and just manually, the email me your clip
Doesn't work.
doesn't work.
And something that's really been beneficial for a lot of the companies that we've worked with is that training is built into the app. So you basically
Right.
open the app and we call them activities. So
Uh-huh.
let's say I work at a Chrysler dealership and I have, Black Friday card sale happening in a month. I could open that activity and be instructed on what to say, what to show, anything I need to mention, anything I need to not mention, and then basically use those instructions as guidance for me while I'm creating the video of me standing in the lot with all the cars. And then once I upload that to be published, it's going to get scanned via our AI technology to make sure that those things are A, included in the video, and B, that there's nothing additional that could be
Right.
detrimental or damaging to that video. So it does help people who I mean, we see that some of our we call like biggest viral stars that have used our product are elderly employees at Walmarts in random locations. They just go viral because their content is so funny and heartwarming and just like personable.
Yeah.
And you would never think that they are like the digital native who's great at making a TikTok. You know what I mean? But, some of these people go completely viral with millions and millions of views and are on the Today Show because we help teach them how to create content to, reach one of their store's goals, and it ends up going viral.
Well, you just tickle my brain. And I got the learning and development filtered. I know the primary focus is marketing, and I think
Yep.
that's really interesting. But I got the learning and development filter on, and one of the big things is gamification. When you first said it, I didn't realize you can actually set instructions and say, like, let's get
Yeah.
back to the Starbucks example. It's like, hey, we are looking for a training video on how to make the spiced pumpkin latte,
Yep.
right? And so, poof, it goes out there, and here are the instructions. You have to show, it's going to be used as a training. Like one of the biggest problems in the extended enterprise learning, which is where we focus,
Right.
is you're always trying to teach somebody something about your product, right? Whether it's how to sell your product, service your product, use your
Yep.
product, or supply your product, right? And so you can't go to a publisher and just pull, license courses off the shelf because it's all relative to your product and your brand, right? And one of the biggest challenges that we see is trying to create the content because you got to build it for your product in particular.
Yep.
And this idea of saying, hey, I'm just envisioning something like, hey, if you're, if you're got say your level one foundational knowledge certification, so you understand Starbucks or not to keep going back to Starbucks,
That's
but
okay.
Starbucks and how to make lattes and all that kind of stuff. You've demonstrated that, like you understand that. You're then, you've reached this level of certification, so you're not just some newbie that's going to say, and then go
Right.
over the sink and do this.
Right.
Like, you're a professional, right? You're cut above and you're in the network, and then go, hey, we're doing a contest. We want a training video for how to make the spiced pumpkin latte, and this year, we're putting 2 jiggers of nutmeg in it too, or whatever where twist is this year, right? And then boom, next thing you know, you got like 200 videos
Yep. So
of
funny,
people making, spiced lattes. Like, that's really cool.
yeah, and funny you should mention gamification. So I think one of the best parts of our app is that we include gamification. So one of the tabs in our app is a leaderboard. So you can see everybody else's content. You can see
Yeah.
who's
Cool.
posting the most. You can see the engagement metrics across all the content. So I mean, us internally at Brand Networks, we use the app ourselves. We don't really use it to sell our product because most of our audience isn't a B2B audience from a like individual standpoint, but we use it to showcase our company culture that we put on LinkedIn if we're looking to hire. So
Hmm.
literally right now we're in need of some more content for a website that we're building, and there's an open competition right now where the person who posts the most and the person who has the most viral or most engaged with piece of content is going to win
Yeah.
lunch for a week. So,
Right.
there's ways to like keep people involved and also keep people engaged with creating the content that you as a franchisor or brand owner or enterprise brand needs to really accomplish whatever, objectives you have.
Well, and what I really like about this, and it's the be an influence, not to focus on that. I know
That's
Amy's
like, no,
got the AI, but what I really like about this is, and it's kind of cool because it's some of the things that AI is enabling. As an industry, we have been, learning and development industry. We're really good at knowledge acquisition, right? Like, we're really good at preparing you for your driver's test, right? Because you could do that at scale with automation, and we struggle as an industry with preparing you for your road test because now that's practice and coaching, and that's very manually intensive and requires a lot of human interaction, right? And that's time and money. But with some of the AI, with the avatars and with the simulations, like I said, the cost of being able to offer practice and coaching to develop skills is dropping, and we're seeing it being picked up. And it's this learn, do, teach model. And the conversation I had with guys over at Batteries Plus, where they've done a pretty good job at it. It's like, okay, now what's the next piece, which is the teach? Because when you teach something, that's when you really master it, right? When you have to explain it to other people. And what I love about what you're as you're kind of unfolding the functionality of that product is, and it gets back to content is always a problem with our clients.
Hmm.
getting that video content that shows them how to make that
Yeah.
pumpkin latte or how to change the brakes on this, or we just rolled out, a new version of this chipper and how do you maintain it and how do you like the how-to videos on are always difficult, right?
Yep.
Because and there's a small group at headquarters and it's just the content that they need to make is out here.
Yep.
And what I love about what you're talking about is you could bake that into, not just the contest and all that, but it becomes a workflow of
Yep.
how you can get explainer videos to come back in
Yep.
to demonstrate mastery and then start certifying peoples as masters in, you know, lattes, in shakes,
Yep.
in breaks, in installing solar panels. Like, pick a
Exactly.
skill. You can sit there and use that to demonstrate mastery, not just
Yep.
competency. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Very cool.
And also, sometimes I like to think about the major functionality of the product to essentially be like content sourcing and content distribution for internal teams. So, on the one hand, to your point, they can source content to see who is really the master at installing a solar panel. But also, once that small team at corporate has the finished product of here's how you want to educate our consumers on how to, you know, install their own solar panel, we're going to
Right.
distribute it to everybody. And
Yeah, that's
everybody's going to be able to
exactly.
get it and then
Exactly.
share it out. And then everyone's going to be singing the same song and not
Exactly.
going
Exactly.
wild.
No, no, exactly. And you can mix and match them, right? You can sit there and go, well,
Exactly.
here's the best video we got on doing installing a panel. But this other one came in and it addresses this unique situation when the roof slope is like this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
How do you overcome this? And you put them together. And now it's like it's brilliant. And then to create that content and then also being able to enable that distributed network of people
Right.
in your business partners, the ability to demonstrate mastery. And like you were saying, it's like, okay, on the leaderboard, how many have been how many have been, and I'm very excited about that.
Good. I'm glad.
So I'm very, no, it's really neat because it's just showing you how you can take one piece of technology that's geared for one thing,
Yeah,
and you can take a new use case at it, look at it from a
definitely.
different perspective, and solve a different problem. Which is
Definitely.
one of the things I had so much fun when we met each other and we started chatting.
Yep.
We just went down different wormholes and rabbit holes and have fun stuff. So, but okay, so that's be an influencer. That was really interesting. Which
Yep.
it's that just gives me a lot of pause for thought there. Like I think that's so cool
I'm
because
glad.
well, because I'm trying to solve that learn, do, teach problem, right? And we've
Yeah.
got the learn part down, and I can see the do part coming, and the teach part in my brain. And right now, I'm actually right before I'm in the middle of writing a book about all this. So,
Okay.
so my brain is like,
Spinning.
zoomed in on that, right? And I'm like, oh my god, this is a way to do the teach. You can, yep. Well, because it's interesting because one of our clients was the American Board of Emergency Medicine and they do high stakes credentialing, right? They credential all the ER docs, and same. It's the same problem, but in a different area. How do you effectively test that somebody knows emergency
Yeah.
medicine very well?
Yeah.
Well, they have these tremendous workflows just to get a question onto the test, like as you could imagine. And well, this is very different and maybe not as high stakes as that, but it's the same problem, and it addresses the problem in a very creative and highly impactful way.
Yeah.
Because right now what I see in most of our clients is it's all email, it's all attachments, and
Yeah.
you're not getting the engagement of the distributed audience,
We
and so
find
it's a
a
bunch of guys at headquarters just cranking out content.
Yeah, what we find is a lot of people who we meet with go, "Oh my god, I've been sending like 100,000 emails a week, and this is saving me from emailing everybody who I want to post something." So it helps from with the workflow for sure.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah,
really cool. So now, so if we get back to one of the things I like to talk about, especially now, is like we're in another technological, and we kind of touched on a little bit.
yeah,
We talked about AI, and I like to get your thoughts more on AI and
sure.
how it's impacting everything. I know you just came out with Amy, and
Yep.
it seems like it's working its way into all the other products as well.
Yep.
How do you see that? What things do you do you see have happened or just recently launched or coming down the pipe? How do you think it's going to change what's going on out there?
Whew. That's a big question. I think specifically what is interesting to me right now is how I think going back to what we were talking about before with workflows is it's how it's helping shorten workflows in ways where I think a lot of people are a lot of people, and I'm going to include myself, are afraid like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs. I know that's one of the big narratives. And I don't know if we're quite there yet, but what I do see is that we're able to help make people's jobs easier or allow them to do more with their job. Not to bring it back to Amy, but like we have, like I mentioned, we have an internal media buying agency that still works with some of
Hmm.
our historical clients. And they've kind of been our guinea pigs as we've developed Amy of like, hey, can you test this out and see how long it takes you? And, it took for just one platform, it took about 8 minutes to put in all of the information needed to set up a campaign. And on Amy, you can do that for more than one platform in 8 minutes because you're doing it all
Gotcha.
at once. And I think it's really interesting to me to see how AI has helped open up our bandwidth to do more with our time at work, which is great. And I think the other thing
Hmm.
that makes me, I think that there's a lot of pluses and minuses to AI in the general conversation right now, but I think something that makes me excited is something like we talked about at the beginning, which is it's really helping people down market gain access to a lot that they previously haven't had access to. And like my dad, for example, he runs his own business. It's just him and my mom who helps sometimes and me who helps sometimes with his marketing because he has no idea how to market his business by himself. Even just like seeing my mom's eyes open up when I showed her Amy of like,
Hmm.
oh wow, I can ask it questions that she's never thought to ask
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Instagram before. I think that's really great because it's also helping educate people. It's helping AI, I mean Amy, but also AI in general. It's helping educate people. It's giving people access to information that they may have not had access to before. I mean, I think in the business world and specifically the marketing world where I spend most of my time, I think it's going to be really helpful for folks down market in whether you're a franchise owner or you just own a mom and pop shop on Main Street. Like I think that AI is going to be really helpful in helping people grow and sustain their business when, you know, the economic tides are always up and down. I think my hope is that AI can be a help with that. One other example is one of our upcoming capabilities within Amy. And sorry, I don't mean to keep bringing it back to Amy, but just
No,
it's
that's
obviously
that.
obviously it's top of mind to me. Is
Well, it's a new AI product you just
yeah,
guys rolled out. So you're
yeah,
like,
and
okay, this is,
and
you
also
want to talk about AI? Let me talk about this.
it's all I've been thinking about for months now. So I'm ready to go. But you know, one thing that and someone who's worked in an ad agency, one thing that is very inaccessible to smaller companies is a TV commercial because they are so incredibly expensive to
Right, right.
shoot, to pay for the spot. How do you even navigate that if you're just like a person who owns a store and you want to market to the people in your community? How does one even navigate getting a commercial on TV? It's a whole process. But because of AI and our upcoming partnership that we're launching in just a couple weeks, people are going to be able to access inventory at a really low rate because of the partnership that we're unlocking via Amy. And a creative partnership is going to be able to help people make TV commercials using AI. So what before, is an insurmountable task for a lot of small businesses is now going to be as easy as chatting with a couple AI bots and partnering with someone from our team to help create a TV spot and then immediately get cheap access to inventory on connected TVs in your local area. And like to me, as someone who's been in marketing and advertising for over 10 years, like that's crazy
Right.
because like, I'm picturing people that I know who own a store, and I'm from California, who own a store in California. Like, there's no chance they're getting a TV commercial on to promote their store for the holidays, but like that could be a possibility now, which is unbelievable, and hopefully helps a lot of small businesses kind of stay afloat right now. So that makes me hopeful.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So anything else Brand Networks is up to?
We all need to have a drink and a nap after launching Amy.
What?
Uh, we've been in beta or in pilot for the last couple of months, and it's available to anybody literally as of Tuesday of this week. So
My
it's
gosh.
out there.
Like Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah. This was not planned to talk to
Oh,
you
no.
today. We
No, no.
were,
That was, no, yeah.
yeah. And it was
Oh,
not supposed to be ready on Tuesday, and it was ready. So we said, let's go. So it's
oh,
ready and it's out
fantastic.
there. And
That's really cool.
we're up to we're expanding the capabilities of Amy to really just bolster the amount of tools that people have access to. So that's our first priority, and we're focused on just, evolving our products. And I think to the be an influencer point, we have some other products which we did not discuss today, which requires another podcast to go into. But there's a lot of we have a lot of localization technology when it comes to creative and content, and we're hoping to scale that a little bit because we obviously see, especially in the franchise space, there's a need for like mass and quick localization of ads or things like that. So we're hoping to see that become more of a component of our Be an Influencer product in the future.
Well, switching around a little,
Yeah.
you got this great set of products, right? And, from the Be an Influencer right now, Amy. So how does brand networks, and they're all these B2Bs. And when you're dealing with a Fortune 500, it's like, okay, I'm going to educate them. I'm going to send somebody there to
Yeah.
teach them how to
Yeah.
do X, Y, and Z. But one of the other things is as brand networks goes more towards the small and medium sized business, how are you all educating your customers in using these tools and products? Or, like, is it like, to say use Amy to
Yeah.
maximum efficiency? Like, is it
Yeah.
just like I get it and I play around with it
No,
and
we
figure it
we
out? Or
think we think about it a lot, and specifically on Amy, we have thought and are still thinking about it a lot because, we keep going to my dad and our CEO Mike. His dad owns a couple UPS stores, I think, down in Florida. So
okay,
like we kind of use them as the example. Like when we're putting
yes,
together the information on the Amy website or in the chat, you know, my dad doesn't know what a click through rate is. So we need to explain and educate people on what a click through rate is, why it's important to look at that when you're running an advertisement. And also we're really focused on building educational modules for onboarding purposes for within the technology itself so that there's enough resources in there so that if somebody has a question besides asking Amy themselves, the benefit of conversational AI is you can ask Amy and you'll get an answer, but
yeah,
but we're kind of helping instruct people and educate people on how to use the chat as to their maximum capabilities. Like here's what you
mhm.
can ask, here's how Amy can help, things like that. So we're thinking about it. I'm thinking about it a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that because we just recently added a chatbot to our support site, and it's funny what you just said, because we found is like, well, one, that all of a sudden makes all that content available,
Yep.
right? Instead of people kind of searching and sorting and
Yep.
hoping they went down the right trail,
Yep.
they can just say, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. What do I do?" No, not that. This other thing. Well, no, that with
Exactly.
a shade of blue. With a shade of blue,
Yeah.
no, that's too dark a blue. No, it's
Yep.
more like a sky blue. It's like Carolina blue, right? And the chatbot's like, "Oh, okay, okay, okay. Well, and here's your answer."
Yep.
But but what I find interesting about what you said is, and it's changing customer education in particular, but also education in general is it also identifies where you need more content. So you create this content and you make it available to the learner,
Yep.
right? And like we're doing on our support site, like we make this content and it's available to the learner, and maybe it's embodied in a video or a course or something, but then you make it available to the AI. But then as you start using the AI, you're like, oh, we don't have content that answers this question. So we got to
Yep.
create content. So
That's
yeah.
that's what's happening right now. I mean,
And it's,
we're updating we launched 2 days ago and we're already updating our onboarding flow because we've gotten a few from just people that we know who have started using it. What can I ask Amy? I'm like, that's a great question. We should probably tell people what they can ask, because
right.
if you don't know anything about running ads for your business, you probably don't know what to ask as a starter question. So to your point, we're learning a lot about what's not being asked in this kind of like world where you can ask any chat, anything you want, and you get an answer.
Yeah.
We're learning what information we need to keep providing so that
Well,
people can feel comfortable.
well, yeah. I mean, the other thing, too, it's interesting because we're all learning this. We also just rolled out on our learning platform chat support. It's called the Latitude Assistant, but it's chat support within the learning portal. And so
Got it.
you, as the administrator, as the training manager, go, hey, I want to have these courses and these resources part of the knowledge base. And then all the chatbot knows is what's in that knowledge base. And if you ask
Yep.
it for to your thing about asking questions, if you ask a question that is not in that knowledge base, it goes, I don't know. And it's not good. It's not like general chat GPT where it's going to go out to the internet and, find some website somewhere that told you to use duct tape and baling wire.
Right.
Right. It's like, it's going to say, I don't know. And it's interesting what you were saying is because it also gets into that whole like not only the content creation, but the content curation
Yep.
to sit there and go, well, I want Amy, or, I want this Latitude Assistant, or I want this AI device to only look at curated content
Right.
for the answer. And when it was interesting, and the tool, it's interesting because the tools are there to do that from the AI companies.
Right.
But the thing our developers have spent a little bit of time on is making the AI forget something. It's like when you go, this thing over here, no longer
No
relevant,
more. Yeah.
right? That was last year's model or last year's version. We
Yeah.
don't do it that anyway. We do it this way. But it's interesting because it gets into that whole, what can you ask it? And we're so used to asking general models anything, but then we also want to constrain it to say, no, it's only this curated and you're not going to just go make stuff up by, it's fun.
Yes.
It's a neat,
Yeah. It's kind of a new world.
it is, it is. And it's, we're having a blast doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Anything else? One other thing I want to ask you is just, outside of, this is all about learning and education
Yeah.
outside of the office. What do you like to learn about?
Gosh. Yeah. What do I like to learn about? I think I'm generally a curious person. So like I like to learn a lot of things. But one thing that I'm learning, I guess you can call it learning, is a hobby of mine is doing pottery and ceramics. I like to get off of a screen. My whole job is on screens. I like to put the screens away and like do something with my hands. And I'm learning how to make a ceramic lamp. And I know this is like very
Huh.
specific, but that is something I'm
Yeah.
learning how to do right now. You have to hand build
Interesting.
it, not on a wheel. And I'm very used to like throwing pottery on the pottery wheel, but this is something I have to hand make. So I'm really learning how to do that. And I'm failing a lot in the learning process.
Well, that is learning, right? That
Yeah.
learning is about,
Yep.
so if you're not using a wheel, how do you,
Uh,
because I'm picturing like an 18-inch high
you have to, you,
round vase type shape.
I can get really technical, but basically you roll out what's called a slab, which is like a very long,
Okay.
thin piece of clay, and then you use that to kind of construct the shape that you need, but
Interesting.
it has to be a specific dryness. It's a whole thing, but
Huh. Well, I mean, I'm not a potter,
yeah.
but I would have assumed it would have been like like using the wheel and building it, but you're just going to build a thin high.
Yes, exactly.
If you're doing a round lamp, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and you're saying no, it doesn't work that way.
Nope. I thought it did, and then I was proven wrong pretty instantly once I tried. I'll get there eventually.
Is it because if you're throwing it on a wheel, you just can't get that kind of height without it collapsing? Is that the
No, you can. It's just I'm going for more of a. I saw someone making it more of a geometric, not round shape. That's really the difficulty.
okay?
It's not round, which
Okay,
is part of the problem. Think more like gingerbread house
yeah, yeah,
modeling and less like bowl shape.
right,
But yeah, it's harder than it looked from when I was watching
yeah.
somebody do it.
Well, what do you, when you're throwing? What do you like? What kind of pieces do you like to make? I mean, you're learning now about the lamp,
Yeah, yeah.
but in the past, what kind of stuff do you like to make?
Honestly, I making bowls is harder than people would suspect, but I do enjoy making a bowl. I've made my friend a couple mugs. I basically just like get requests from my friends and I'm like, you should probably pay me for this, but then they don't, but it's okay. But I do enjoy making mugs because you can really have fun with the handle and make them kind of like look and feel cool and make them the right size. And anyway, when you have a good
That's
mug,
fun.
it's really
Yeah.
nice.
That's funny. I mean, it's interesting you say that because it's such a personal thing, right? It's
Totally.
like this. It's like this thing that you like. Like when I'm in my office, I have a mug that I made from. I didn't make the mug, but went to like when my kids were really young,
Yeah. Painted it.
and we were on vacation. We went to this place, and like one of my daughters made a caterpillar and painted it and fired it, and one of mine made, and the other one made what was it, an elephant or something, and I made a mug, right? And here it is, like literally 20 years
Yep.
later, and it's like my mug and it's like, and every time I pick it up, like I remember
Yep.
being on, with my two young girls. They had to be like 5 and 8 at the time or something like that, and they're women now, and but yeah, but when you say mug, it's interesting because it's a very personal thing. It's like you're
Yeah.
using it every day, and it's for
And
something like
like
yummy coffee or tea.
my friend whom I mentioned, she had a very specific vision of what she wanted for her mug. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I can do it.
that's really cool.
Yeah. Of
That's really cool. Well, Josh, I want to thank you for joining us.
course. Thank you for having me.
It was really interesting. The audience might be bored of me saying this, but I love doing this because every time I do it, I learn something new. So I appreciate that.
Hey,
I
me too.
love that idea of the be an influencer as a tool to curate content from a wide
Yep.
distributed network,
Yep.
and then using it for marketing purposes is one use case, but
For
using
sure.
it for learning,
Can
like
totally
I
do
think
that
that's a
too.
very cool use case.
Yep.
So that's really cool. I learned a lot, and so thank you,
Awesome.
Josh. I really
Thank you for
appreciate your
having
time.
me. Likewise.
And everybody out there, thank you for listening. We're doing this for you, and we appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.